Well, I'm excited to introduce Tom Macpherson Le Maire. Tom is somebody that I interviewed recently for the Brains Magazine podcast. He's been working with numerous companies over the last number of years with some incredible success. And today, me and Tom wanted to talk about diversity. So, Tom, I think it'd be really good actually just to start with what is it about diversity that's quite close to your heart?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me back. Must admit that we
Absolutely.
had a good session
We
last
did.
time. Yeah, so we had so thank you for that. Um, I think I mean it's a very interesting topic, particularly these days, and actually can be quite controversial. I think why it's I guess close to my heart is because over the years, I think we alluded to this on the previous podcast over the years, I myself belong to, I guess, what you could call a minority group or a group where, it's easier to suffer kind of uh, discrimination and I guess more challenges in life on occasions. Um, being openly gay, that's something I've definitely experienced in my life, certainly when I was younger. So I think it's a topic that I can definitely speak to, but I would hope also can bring some balance to, because it might be that it's in terms of where I am on this subject now, it may be not where people necessarily expect me to land.
Yeah. And I'm always humbled as well because I probably would get stereotyped as like the most privileged. I've had people say to me, I'm white, I'm English, you know, it's almost like you tend to not appreciate the journey that other people go on when you haven't been exposed to such differing opinions. And like you said, even like talking this through, there's an edginess to it of not wanting to make sure we say the wrong thing. One thing that I was going to ask you, because this is something that I'm really kind of curious about. In our pursuit of equality, are we losing signs of individual merit and personal responsibility? I always think of, for me, when it comes to positions in like leadership, for me, I tend to side with best in class. But what are your thoughts on that?
The short answer is yes, we are losing ourselves to, I think, overcomplicating the issue. Um, in terms of diversity, where we're ending up, or the journey we're going down, is actually could be potentially for me quite dangerous. And I say that because you're talking there about, proper representation, but you also mentioned that, the merit a meritocracy or best in class, which is absolutely in business how things should be done. So it's not about, for me, giving false privilege to minority groups for no other reason than they belong to a minority group. Because for me, that's not at all what we're trying to achieve, right, with diversity and equality. You're trying to achieve true equality, not to give a minority group a leg up, right?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, are you saying, Tom, that for you, it's more about giving people the opportunity to either prove they're best in class or actually show that they're not?
It's exactly that. So if you, in anything, be it in business or be it in an opportunity or be it in what you wouldn't want for me is, and I would never want this for myself, I wouldn't want to think that I was being treated in a special way or a more privileged way or given an advantage or treated differently um, to the detriment, because I'm gay, to the detriment of someone who is not gay. To
Hmm.
me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That's not what the point of equality is.
Hmm.
And that to me doesn't speak to diversity. That speaks to actually discrimination in the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, because where I find that it's really, at least I feel quite because I love the game of football, right? And so when you started getting female commentators on football matches, some of them should be nowhere near it, and it's not because they're a woman; they're just not at it. Like, and there is some good female commentators. So again, for me, I'm always pulling on best in class.
But
Now,
it's
of course,
about the meritocracy again. It's what you're
exactly.
saying. So rather than loading the screen to make a point about having female commentators,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because there's definitely been a massive influx in the sport of female
yes,
commentators.
yeah,
No one's saying that's wrong necessarily, of course. If they're good at it,
yeah.
great. But there are a lot of lousy ones out
There
there
is.
that are still doing the job because woe betide if we were to say that if they criticize in any way. So, because what that is, that's now speaking to tokenism. If you're putting someone in there because they're a woman, because they're gay, because they're ethnically diverse, and that's the reason why, and we've got to prove that we're diverse.
Yeah,
We've got to prove this as an organization or as a business or as a movement or we've got to prove the diversity piece. So let's just put lots of people in. And I think sometimes that what gets overlooked a little bit is the talent and meritocracy piece, right?
yeah, definitely. Do you think then that the shift towards social justice culture, or sometimes we hear it as woke, is actually promoting inclusivity, or do you think it's actually causing more division?
It's causing way more damage and division. I don't care, how people interpret that. That is, and there'll be people straight away that are triggered by that. And it's not that I necessarily like using the word woke because it's a little bit lazy, it's a little bit overused, and it's a word also that's been weaponized, I would say, by extreme right factions. So
Mm,
it's not that I think the word woke is the best word for it, but it seems to be one that encapsulates the social justice culture.
mm,
And I think if you go too far with that to the point where common sense comes out of it, you actually don't recruit people to the cause or as allies or to educate and stand with you. You actually push more people away, especially when common sense isn't applied or there is an overly discriminatory movement towards people that are not belonging to a minority group of some description.
mm. Interesting. And then how would you say we can balance respect and free speech without shifting away from having honest, real conversations in the name of political correctness? Because there is always that sense of got to make sure that I'm saying the right thing.
Well, I think evaluate in your own head, how does it sound? Like if you're giving an opinion, the important thing is to be respectful to
Mm,
people, to people's right to be who they want to be, or respecting people for who they are, no matter what minority group someone might belong to. Um, and ask yourself, is it hurtful or hateful? Is it inciting hatred? Are you openly criticizing or denying that person's right to exist? And if
mm,
you're not, then it's very unlikely. There are still going to be people that are going to be offended by it. There are
yeah.
people that I know now that would listen to this and they would say that I'm coming at this from the wrong angle and that, it, it it's but for me, when you take it further down a road and you're moving away from a meritocracy or you're moving away because ideally you want people to be completely colorblind. It shouldn't matter what color you are in terms of equality of opportunity. That's what people like Gandhi and Martin Luther King fought for.
Mm,
What they didn't fight for, what they didn't fight for was for um, people to have. Martin Luther King would have never promoted black people having more rights or a bigger, bigger opportunity than white people. That's not what he would have. fought for. The whole idea is equality. It's not for then minority groups of any description to get an advantage or a leg up or anything like that. And I think there is, in some respects in society now, there is a lot of tokenism as well.
Mm,
We see it sometimes in the film industry as well, you know.
mm. And how has it been for you? Like, and what is the landscape like in terms of diversity with regards to your opportunities and how you are seen, Tom? Is it something that you have felt the rough end of, or do you feel like actually for you you've actually navigated it quite well?
I think overall I've navigated it well. Like I've said to you and alluded to you before, I had a really tough time at school, like
Mm,
to the point of like mental and physical like bullying.
mm,
And I was afraid to get on the school bus. So look, I've lived that. I've been there and I've been discriminated against. I've felt hatred from people because I was different. So I understand it. Um, and even as recently as, I don't know, in the last 2, 3 years, yeah, I was out with my mates around town and, I got an insult like hurled at me in a bar, which was a typical, insult towards gay people. And more than anything, it made me laugh because I just thought how pathetic it was. It's not something that I'm going to take to heart because I'm strong enough in who I am and
yeah.
own who I am not to really let that affect me. Obviously, my mates were great; they defended me and everything. Um, so it isn't, but has it affected my life chances? Well, no, because throughout my career, I've always put myself forward, worked hard, and it's not been an issue. That's kind of where I want to land with all of this.
Mm,
It's for people to be blind to race and gender and sexuality, because it really, in the grand scheme of things, most normal, decent people, they don't care about that. They just care about who you are and what you can bring to the table.
yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, Tom, like when we did the Brains podcast, uh, specifically on Instagram. Out of all the podcasts that we've done and then promoted that on Instagram, I've never seen so much love for a guest as much as you, and that's true.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you to say. I'm sure you've had a lot of popular guests,
I
so
have, but none, not even the celebrity ones, have had as much love on a post uh, that I've seen.
well, it's good to know. But look, I essentially try to be who I am, and I think anyone that knows me would say that I'm a kind and very giving person. So this is not me trying. I'm not an unkind person, but I also have a lot of common sense, and I also would say that I can see things. I can see that the way that we're going now, particularly and it seems to be very much in a younger mindset in Gen Z and Gen Alpha, where they are tying themselves up in knots
Mm,
about this type of about diversity, but too much so. And so because that is the way it's moving and it's shifting with them, you can see companies, organizations, you can see it in Hollywood, you can see it with Disney, you can see it with where they're moving with that because they think they need to move with that. But actually, you're excluding a whole host of different voices. And you're also, so many times you hear people being accused of being, racist or bigoted or homophobic, and you're thinking, no, they're not. No, they're really not. And I think, I'm a big admirer of, a big fan of Ricky Gervais, and he's the one that said, you know, there's such a thing as a joke. There's such a thing as not everyone is out there to try and offend you.
mm. Yeah, and I guess it is difficult because it's easy for someone maybe like me to come out and say that perhaps where in in most cases people would be like I'm like not so much having to be challenged by a particular viewpoint or lifestyle or identity. And I think actually it's really quite powerful when you talk about it because I feel like there's only things that someone like yourself in identifying, that you're gay and that being okay, I feel like only a gay person can say that. Like I couldn't. Do you know what I mean?
It's not something I ever, do you know, it's not something I ever really talk about
Yeah,
because I am just who I am. That's just a
yeah, of
part of me. I think
course.
that the other problem we have is that people make it their whole identity. I meet people like that who, again, like it's not just a part of who they are, which is how it should be. Because the ideal is you just want the whole point is acceptance and equality, right?
Yep.
It's not to kind of make a whole big point about it. We don't need to tell everyone about it necessarily. You are who you are, and that's it. I mean, you would never walk up to someone and introduce yourself um as straight, would you? Hi, I'm Mark. I'm straight, by the way. But what a dumb sentence. I mean, how is it relevant? I mean, like, what are people meant to say? Congratulations. Is it? So for me, it's the same thing. Sexuality and we know, of course, there are, of course, still plenty. I'm not saying that that doesn't exist. There's still plenty of bigoted people in the world. There's still plenty of countries in the world where it's still illegal to be gay, or might even face something like the death penalty.
Mm,
And that's something you've got to continue to fight against.
yep.
But in the developed world and in the Western world, we've never had it so good. But what I'm trying to say is, let's not alienate everybody else.
Yeah.
Because I think now there's no point being almost apologetic about the past. I think that's the other problem, right?
Yeah.
Because it was worse at one
Yeah.
point. Because as recently, I guess, as the 1960s, it was illegal to even be gay in the UK, technically. Um, because of the abuses, if we're talking about race and the abuses of empire and colonialism and what have you. But what I think is completely unhelpful now is for in modern society for us to take, oh, well, now let's take an extreme view then against everybody else and almost retrospectively punish based on the past.
Mm,
Um, the past is the past. It's gone. There's nothing anybody can do to change it. What took place in, against various minority groups over the decades and the centuries clearly was wrong,
mm,
but that's not now.
mm. Very good.
There has to be a distinction made there about using present day events to almost retrospectively punish. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's about trying to move forward in harmony.
Yep. Literally got 30 seconds left, Tom.
That's gone
You,
quick.
it's gone so fast, doesn't it? I knew it would. What would be like your parting thought or maybe question?
I think parting thought is to, I think, really look at diversity policy as an opportunity to actually bring about true equality and not to give any group an additional advantage because I think that insults the minority group as well.
Mm,
And let's have a open and common sense debate about this in media and film representation and wider popular society. Um, because I think people are overcomplicating it and actually, winding themselves up into um, a tiz about it.
mm,
When you could take such a more educational and common sense approach, I think for me.
good. Well, it's been a great discussion because I think it's something that is needed to be said, and obviously there is quite a lot of, like as you said, controversy, and even I'm finding like I'm kind of filtering through what I say, which is
That's the whole problem, and that's
it
kind of
is
the problem.
it is
The fact that everybody is walking on eggshells about something they may say when they don't have an intention of offending anybody or not. If you might be offended, it doesn't mean what is being said is offensive.
yes, very true, very good, Tom. I think that's probably the perfect way to end that. It's been great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.